Good morning. Welcome to the inauguration ceremony of the Adjunct Professor, Professor Hannah Dahlen AM, from Western Sydney University, hosted by the Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Airlangga. My name is Citra Monica, and I'm truly honored to be your Master of Ceremony to lead this prestigious academic occasion. In this beautiful morning, we would like to welcome our special guest, Professor Hannah. Thank you for coming. Hope you enjoy Surabaya. We also like to welcome our Honorable Rector of Universitas Airlangga, represented by Vice Rector for Academic Student and Alumni Affairs, Dean of Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Airlangga, represented by Vice Dean International Relations and Research, Head of Office of International Affairs, Head of Professional Program of Midwife, Head of Bachelor of Midwifery Study Program, also the Director of Dr. Sutomo's Hospital, represented by Head of Education and Training, and Director Universitas Airlangga's Hospital, represented by Nursing Manager, and finally our honorable distinguished guests and participants. Leading to our first agenda, we will sing National Anthem Indonesia Raya, followed by Hymn of Airlangga. May all guests please stand up. For all the guests, please be seated. Now we will hear the curriculum vitae of Professor Hannah Dahlen that will be reading by Professor Dr. Asra Al-Fauzi, Medical Doctor, Neurosurgeon Consultant. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all professors, doctors, and distinguished guests. On this extraordinary opportunity, allow me to read a short CV of Professor Hannah as an opening so that we get to know the excellent persons who has joined our big family at the Faculty of Medicine Universitas Airlangga today. Currently, Professor Hannah Dahlen AM is serving as a distinguished professor of midwifery at Western Sydney University, Australia, as can be seen on the screen. This slide shows her basic professional information, including her official correspondence address at the Parramatta South Campus and her institutional email contact. Professor Hannah Dahlen has an exceptional academic background that reflects her lifelong dedication to nursing, midwifery, and maternal health research. She began her career by earning a registered nurse certificate in 1987, followed by a midwifery practitioner certificate in the United Kingdom in 1991. She holds a Bachelor of Nursing with first-class honors from the University of Technology, Sydney, where she was awarded the Yakult Award for the best honors thesis. In 1994, she completed a Master in Community Nursing with distinction from the University of Sydney, focusing on family and early childhood. In 2008, she earned her PhD in nursing and midwifery from the University of Technology, Sydney. And most recently, she obtained a graduate certificate in midwifery from Flinders University in South Australia. Professor Hannah Dahlen brings over 35 years of experience across clinical practice, academic leadership, and international engagement. Since 2020, she has served as an Associate Dean Research and Higher Degree Research and Midwifery Discipline Lead at Western Sydney University, where she has been a Professor of Midwifery since 2012. She previously held roles as Director and Deputy Director of Higher Degree Research and Associate Professor. Clinically, she was involved in a midwifery group practice for a decade, offering care across various birth settings. And her earlier roles include clinical midwifery consultant, educator, and international volunteer work, reflecting her deep commitment to maternal and newborn health globally. Professor Hannah Dahlen has received numerous national and institutional recognition for her impact on midwifery and maternal health. She was appointed member of the Order of Australia for her significant service to midwifery, nursing, and medical education. She was also listed among Sydney's 100 most influential thinkers by the Sydney Morning Herald in 2012. Her awards include the Vice Chancellor Award for Research Supervision, multiple quality awards in healthcare innovation, and the Young Investigator Award from PSANZ. This honor reflects her dedication to advancing women's health and midwifery-led care in Australia and beyond. As a renowned researcher, Professor Dahlen has published more than 300 academic papers and book chapters. Her works appears in highly respected journals such as The Lancet, BMG, Open, and also Midwifery. She is ranked among the top 2% of the cited researchers globally since 2022, with an impressive high index of 45 and over 6,000 citation. Her field-weighted citation impact is 2.13, which is well above the world standard. In addition to her research, Professor Dahlen actively contributes to the scientific community through editorial work. She served on the editorial boards of International Journal of Childbirth, Women and Birth, and also PLOS ONE. She is also a regular contributor to public knowledge platforms such as The Conversation and Croquet, making science accessible to a broader audience. Professor Dahlen has been awarded more than 30 international and external grants since 2008, totaling millions of dollars. These grants support various large-scale projects, including maternal health, intervention, and also healthcare reform studies. Notably, she has led and collected grants from prestigious bodies like MRFF, NHMRC, and the European Cost Initiative. Over the past decade, Professor Dahlen has delivered over 100 conference presentations, and most of them as an invited keynote speaker. She has spoken in numerous countries, including Norway, Sweden, Brazil, India, and the United States. Her presence at international forums has significantly shaped discussion on evidence-based midwifery and maternal care reform. Indeed, to the time limitation, it is impossible for us to discuss all the achievements that have been achieved by Professor Dahlen all this time. But at least with these few slides, we can get to know her much closely. We can also take inspiration and valuable lessons for her dedication and the extent to which she has devoted herself to the world of medicine, especially in the field of nursing and midwifery. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Asra. Moving to the next agenda, there will some speech. The opening speech by Head of Bachelor of Midwifery Study Program, Dr. Budi Prasetyo, Medical Doctor, Obstetric and Gynecology Consultant. Time is yours.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To our honorable guest, Director of Universitas Airlangga, which represented by Professor Dr. Bambang Sektiari, and to our Dean of Medical Faculty, Universitas Airlangga, represented by Dr. Sulistiawati, and Director of Dr. Sutomo Hospital, represented by Dr. Astindari. Good morning. And our Director of Universitas Airlangga Hospital, our Professor Asra is our national international, yes, sorry, international staff of medical faculty and our respected colleagues and our student, and to our esteemed guest, Professor Hannah Dahlen from Western Sydney University. First of all, let us praise and Alhamdulillah for His grace that we can meet in here in a good and healthy condition. And I would like to say welcome to our guest, Professor Hannah, from who today officially joined us as an adjunct professor. I think this moment marks a significant milestone, not only in our academic journey, but also in our collective effort to strengthen the institution role in advancing midwifery at both national and international level. And as a coordinator of midwifery study program, I view the presence of Professor Hannah Dahlen that as see the curriculum vitae with her remarkable expertise and influential contribution to maternal and newborn health. We hope that it will support and strengthen our institutional academic reputation, research capacity, and international partnership. And through this partnership, we hope we can improve our study program, our curriculum, and also inspiring us, including for our students. And I would also like to take this moment to express my gratitude to our university leaders, Prof. Bambang and our rector, and our faculty leaders, Prof. Budi Santoso and our vice dean, and all of those who support this moment. And let us celebrate this special moment as a new beginning that will foster innovation, strengthen partnership, and mostly importantly, improve our study program and the life of mother and children through the improving quality midwifery education. Once again, congratulations to Professor Hannah Dahlen, and we truly honor to have you with us. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Budi. Moving to the next agenda, a welcome speech from the Dean of Faculty of Medicine that will be delivered by Vice Dean, Dr. Sulistiawati, Medical Doctor, Master of Health Science. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning all. The Honorable Rector of Universitas Airlangga, represented by Prof. Bambang Sriatri, and the Honorable our special guest from Western Sydney, Professor Hannah Dahlen. Welcome, and matur suwun have joined with us in Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Airlangga. I said like that because yesterday I met her and she can speak Mongol. Okay, and the Honorable also for all head of the study program, Dr. Budi Prastyo, head of the international office, Professor Asra, and all lecturer from midwifery program. And I don't know, anybody join with Zoom? From Western Sydney? No, and all participants that join with Zoom in this event. So, Alhamdulillah, once again, we can meet together in this aula. This is a history building for Universitas Airlangga, very old building, more than 100 years old, Prof. Hannah, in this aula. So today we will conduct about the inauguration for the Professor Hannah Dahlen as one of the adjunct professor, especially in midwifery program. But after we show the curriculum vitae of Professor Hana, she is very expert in maternal and health problem. And this is in Indonesia, very big problem about maternal and health. So I think this is a very good opportunity for us to join with Professor Hana. Maybe we can conduct activity. In here in Indonesia, we have three aspects in university: education, research, and community development. So I think why not we collaborate with Western Sydney through our adjunct professor, Prof. Hana, and together we can make improve our study program, our education program in here, and research and also community development. Not just a midwifery program, I think. We also have undergrad for the medical student. And also we have a master study for reproductive health and PhD program. So some students from PhD program concerned about the reproductive health and maternal health. So I think once again, this is opportunity. We can make collaboration with Prof. Hana to join with us in many or some program in Faculty Medicine Universitas Airlangga. So hopefully we can look and hear about the maybe a speech of the Prof. Hana today, and maybe so for some student in midwifery also. This is the good opportunity because Prof. Hana will share about experience about maternal and health and children health also, I think. So for all academic in here. So once again, thank you for Prof. Hana. Matur suwun. Matur suwun means terima kasih. So because have joined with us as our adjunct professor. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Sulistiawati. Leading to the next agenda, we would like to hear scientific oration by Professor Hana about from old wives' tales to evidence-based practice. Professor Hana, time is yours.
By thanking the Honourable Rector of Universitas Airlangga and the representative, particularly Professor Bambang Sektiari. I apologise if I get any names wrong. The Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, or representative, Dr. Sulistiawati. The Coordinator of Study Programs, Dr. Budi Prasetyo and Bidan Waro Setia. The Head of Office of International Affairs, Professor Asra Al-Fawzi. And to all of the guests that are here, I visited Airlangga Hospital yesterday and I was so impressed. Not only did I receive a warm welcome, but it was a place of happy people and it was beautifully clean. So congratulations to all of you. So today I'm going to talk to you about my journey through research on why am I here today. I'm going to take you on a journey from my birth to where I am today. And I've called this From Old Wives' Tales to Evidence-Based Practice. Many things in midwifery are very ancient and often labeled old wives' tales, yet they hold much wisdom that we now need to scientifically evaluate. So this is my outline for today. The world shapes us, and in turn, we shape the world. All research begins with a great question. Curiosity is the important part of being a good researcher. Persistence is the secret of success. Don't plan your life too much. Be flexible. Expect that you will have resistance to change, but don't accept it. And it is important to be passionate. So number one, the world shapes us, and in turn we shape the world. And here I am at my beginning in my mother's arms. And I was born in the country of Yemen, in the port of Aden. And I was the only white, blonde, blue-eyed baby in the little tiny hospital. And I believe all the nurses and midwives fought over holding me. And I learned to fight like a girl. I grew up in a country, I had all brothers, so I learned always to find my voice and have my place. But I also grew up in a country where many of the women were not educated, where many of the women died early, died in childbirth, where they lost half of their children. So I learned to become passionate about women's rights and about women's safety and about childbirth. That was the birth of a feminist in me. And this is me with my best childhood friend, Amar. And one day when I was 12, I got to go over to her house and help deliver the baby of her sister-in-law. I was 12 years of age. And that little baby was called Hannah, after me. And it profoundly changed my life and set me in the direction of where I am today. When I was 23, pictured there, I went back to Yemen because I had left at this point, and I found Hannah. And Hannah at that point was a 12-year-old girl that was the size of a 7-year-old girl. She had rickets, she was malnourished, she was tiny, and if she ever had a baby, she would probably die, and she is probably not alive today. This set for me a passion about women's rights. Strong women make strong babies make strong societies. All research begins with a great question. When I was 11, I used to work in the clinics. My mother and father were in medical work, and they used to put me with the burns. And the women in Yemen used to cook the roti in the big clay ovens and often burn their arms. And they would come a donkey ride, many days sometimes, to get our modern medicine. And they packed the wounds with Yemeni honey. Very famous now. It wasn't famous then. Even the bees were still in the honey. And my job was to clean the honey out and apply SSD cream and white bandages to send them back into the hills to never have them changed again. And as I cleaned the honey out, I used to observe beautiful, clean, pink flesh already healing. And I said to one of the Western doctors at one point, "Do you think the honey is doing something?" And he patted me on the head and he said, there, put on the nice SSD cream and the white bandages. And I wonder how many people we killed because years later, randomized controlled trial showed us honey was better than anything in healing. And so that ancient knowledge that the people had, we disregarded and dismissed rather than evaluating. I returned to Australia when I was 15. I had been homeschooled. I had had no competition. I walked into a school of 1,500 people. And I finally discovered what it was to be an A grade or a D grade. I had never had this before. My life was upended. Life was so different in Australia. I did nursing. You can probably spot me. I'm that blonde one in the front there. I did nursing because you couldn't do midwifery straight away. I would have gone straight into midwifery if it had been available. But I always say I am always forever grateful to nursing because I found my husband. And next year, we've been together for 41 years and we have 2 beautiful children together. That's us looking much younger. I often call him my Von Trapp, Captain Von Trapp from The Sound of Music, for those of you who know that film. And this is my beautiful mother. And many of you would know, who are the bidans in the room, would know about Call the Midwife, the show. Well, my mother was one of the real Call the Midwives, and her stories appear in that TV show. And this is her sitting on the roof of the real Nanada's house in England. And she filled my head with stories of cycling through the docklands of London. And so as soon as I had my nursing, I got on a plane and I headed off to the UK to become a midwife. And of course, there were no more bikes. It was all cars, but I still had a fantastic training. That's me with my first baby, caught officially because I was catching babies unofficially as a much younger child in Yemen. My third point is curiosity makes a good researcher. And this is Albert Einstein, who said, "I am neither clever nor especially gifted. I am only very, very curious." And I'm with Albert Einstein, definitely not as smart as he is, but I was always so curious. I always asked why. When I was in England doing my midwifery, I had a woman having her third baby, and as she pushed her baby down, every time she felt that pain, she would draw the baby back up. And an old midwife in the room walked out of the room and came back with a bowl of steaming water, put a hot cloth in it and applied it to her perineum. And the woman sighed her baby out. And I said to the midwife afterwards, "What was in the water? What was the magic that happened there?" And she says, "Oh no, ducky." I'm going to try and do a Scottish accent. "Oh no, ducky, just soothing the ring of fire." And I was so impressed by this. I returned to Australia in 1991. Meanwhile, in that time, I got an honours and a master's, and I had to abridge from my nursing because I had a certificate and the whole world had gone to university. So I had to then get my degree and move on. The next thing I want to talk to you about is persistence is the secret to success. So I came to Australia. I came to a very big hospital in Sydney, very, very famous hospital. And on my first day, I walked down the corridor with a bowl of steaming water, ready to apply warm packs to the woman I was caring for. And the midwives turned to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to be putting warm packs on." And they said, "Where is your evidence?" That is just old wives' tale, and it will not happen in this very sophisticated hospital of ours. But I felt that there was something about that warm water that was making a difference. So follow your instincts. And I'm a stubborn person. If someone says, "No, Hannah, you can't do that," just ask my parents. I will usually do it. So perseverance is stubbornness, but with a purpose, not just stubborn so that we're argumentative. I begged for a little bit of money. Johnson & Johnson gave me $1,500, and I ended up running the world's largest randomized controlled trial on experimenting on whether or not applying a warm pack to a woman's perineum would make a difference. I went and talked to some of my medical colleagues who laughed me out of town and told me it was ridiculous and no one would take me seriously, and it would be the end of my scientific career, but I would not be dissuaded. So I set out to do the world's largest trial, 717 first-time mothers randomized to having a warm compress on their perineum or just standard care, because I wanted to see, did it reduce trauma and did it improve comfort? I was halfway through the trial when the amazing Caroline Homer, some of you may know her from the Burnett Institute, came to me and said, "Hannah, why are you not doing a PhD?" And I said, "Well, as long as you don't make me change the trial, I'll do a PhD." So halfway through doing my trial, I fell into a PhD. Not the way to do it, to anybody who's out there. Please start with a good supervisor and get it right. I then, doing my PhD, found that all this history was lost in antiquity. That back to the days of Socrates, people were applying warm packs, warm bags of oil to women. This was not new. This was not old wives' tales. This had been practiced for thousands of years. My method was very expensive, $17 electric kettle and a jug. So I could do it on the smell of an oily rag, and that is one of the great things about some of the simple things midwives do. We're not expensive. We do simple things to make very big differences. It got published, which was very, very exciting. So old wives' tales can at sometimes be very, very wise, and we shouldn't dismiss them. We should investigate them rigorously and turn them into evidence-based practice. I got a PhD, which was very nice. I was a clinical midwife, passionate about my clinical practice. My fifth lesson is don't plan your life too much, because I thought I'll be a clinical midwife until they put me in a box. I am never going to be one of those crusty academics, those professors who sit up there thinking they know everything. I will never be like that. I'm going to be a real midwife. Well, look at me now. somebody approached me and said, there's this associate professor job going at Western Sydney. I really think you should apply. And I had literally, the ink hadn't dried on my testament for my PhD. They're not going to give me an associate professor job when I've just got a PhD. Well, guess what? They gave it to me. I then said, well, I'll try it for a couple of years and I'll go back to being a real midwife. And nearly 18 years later, I'm still at Western Sydney University. Number 6, expect resistance to change, but don't accept it. Do you think after I had done this world's largest trial, I had shown the benefit of warm packs in reducing severe perineal trauma and improving comfort, that everybody said, wonderful, we're all going to implement it? They didn't even implement it in the hospitals that I trialed it in. So as scientists, we have to be really thinking about impact, and we have to work on changing people's minds and cultures. What happened then in 2012, though, is the Cochrane Systematic Review came out, and it showed that warm packs, combining my trial with another one, can be associated with a decrease in the occurrence of perineal trauma, and it's acceptable to women and midwives, so it now may be offered to women. Still didn't go widespread. And only 2 years later, I sat on the clinical care guidelines for my country to develop the 3rd and 4th degree clinical care standards. And it was that moment of realization when, as number 1 or 2, warm packs were recommended, that I looked back over my life and I thought, you just have to keep on going as a researcher. Number 7, be passionate. I'm so passionate about my job. My job changes the lives of women and babies. And if I can be part of changing the lives of women and babies, I can be part of changing society. If we do not invest in our women and our children, we will have no world, no healthy world, which we can all be proud of and part of. So be passionate. I got involved in politics. This is me standing on a soapbox outside a hospital and protesting that they were not going to allow midwifery models of care. And guess what today? They allow midwifery models of care. And I learned to work with the media. I learned to work with them. I learned how to put complicated things in simple language in 20-second grabs, because the media does not want a thesis of 100,000 words. And I learned very strategically that if I couldn't get policy implemented by my work and my publications, I would go out to the public, get the women to start demanding it. Very powerful way to get change happening. So in conclusion, the world shapes us, and in turn, we shape the world. I have been shaped forever by my birth in Yemen and what I observed and saw in my young life. All research begins with a good question. Curiosity is essential for a good researcher. Persistence is the secret to success. Do not plan your life too much. Be flexible. Expect resistance to change, but don't accept it. And finally, it's important to be passionate. And I want to end with this incredible quote from a man who found and invented the properties of vitamin C and won a Nobel Prize and became a resistor in the Hungarian resistance in World War II. And he said, research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought. Terima kasih. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Hannah, an insightful presentation. Going to the next agenda, we would like to hear some speech from Rector of Universitas Airlangga, represented by Vice Rector for Academic, Student, and Alumni Affairs, Profesor Bambang Sektiari Lukiswanto, DEA DVM. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Selamat pagi. The Honorable Professor Hannah Dahlen. We have someone with Dahlan Iskan, the same. The Dean of Faculty of Medicine, represented by Dr. Sulistiawati, and also the Head of International Office, Prof. Asra Al-Fauzi, the Head of Study Program, Dr. Budi Pras, Head of Department of the Faculty of Medicine, Hospital Director, Director of ITD, Director of Rumah Sakit UNER, and also RSDS. Respected colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Rector of Universitas Airlangga, Professor Dr. Muhammad Nasih, I'm pleased to extend a warm welcome to this prestigious occasion, the inauguration of our esteemed young professor, followed by scientific oration on a transformative topic from old wives' tales to evidence-based practice. Thank you, Prof. Hannah. It is with a great pleasure to extend also a warm welcome to our esteemed guest, Professor Hannah Dahlen from the Western Sydney University, Australia. We are truly privileged to host you at our university, not only in faculty, but in our university, and to recognize your appointment as a young professor. Prof. Hannah Dahlen, remarkable expertise will undoubtedly enrich the academic environment of Universitas Airlangga. To the scientific oration titled From Old Wave Tale to Evidence-Based Practice left a powerful and thought-provoking impression. Prof. Hannah Dahlen eloquently highlight the evolution of midwifery, emphasizing the importance of honoring traditional knowledge while embracing rigorous scientific validation. Her message underscores the value of integrating life experiences with evidence-based care, reminding us that true progress in material health lies in both compassion and critically inquiry. We believe that Prof. Hannah Dahlen's expertise will help our institution gain new perspective, stimulate innovative research, and foster international collaboration. Your presence here represents not just an academic milestone, but a meaningful step forward in our institutional pursuit of excellence in education, research, and global collaboration. The partnership between Universitas Airlangga and Western Sydney University is emblematic of our shared commitment to internationalization. It symbolizes an achievement for both institution and a broader opportunity to cultivate academic exchange and innovation across disciplines. We hope this collaboration will extend beyond clinic and medical science, fostering interdisciplinary engagement with the social sciences and humanities to enrich our understanding of childbirth, women's experiences, and culturally responsive midwifery care. We sincerely appreciate your presence at today's ceremony, which marks a significant milestone in our journey. Let us move forward together, fostering knowledge, advancing research, and making impactful societal contribution. Once again, welcome Prof. Hana to Universitas Airlangga. We look forward to a fruitful and enduring collaborations. Once again, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Bambang Sektiari. Now we've reached the main event, a young professor conferring ceremony by Rector for Professor Hana Dahlen AM. We invite Professor Hana, Professor Bambang Sektiari, Dr. Sulistiawati, Dr. Budi Prasetyo, and Mrs. Woro Setianing Tias to come forward. We invite Professor Bambang to give the garland to Professor Hana. Following this, Dr. Sulistiawati will hand it the certificate to Professor Hana. Following this, Dr. Budi Prasetyo will hand it a plaque to Professor Hana. Lastly, before we are going to the end of this session, there will be a souvenir for Professor Hana from our study program. The souvenir will be given by Mrs. Woro Setianing Tias. Please look at the camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Please be seated. We have through two series of agenda together. Hopefully this event will bring benefit to all of us and lead to a more glorious future of midwifery. Once again, thank you, Professor Hana, for giving new insight and knowledge. I'm Citra Monica. It has been my honor to be your host today. Thank you very much for your kind attention. See you next time. Bye-bye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now we would like to invite all of you to take photos together. Please come forward to everyone. Prof Bambang mungkin foto bersama dulu. Iya, bersama semuanya. Mohon izin sebentar, Dokter. Come on, everyone. Please come forward to take a photos. Ini dulu, nanti mereka kan. Setelah ini bersama semuanya ya. Ya, enggak, kita move ke sana semuanya. Ini biar foto dulu, enggak apa-apa nanti di belakangnya. Ya. Oke, look at the camera. Di podium belakang boleh naik ke belakang. Tadi ini panggil. Everyone, you come forward to take photo. Di belakangnya ya, di belakangnya, podium di belakangnya. Ayo, silakan. Angkat kursinya ini. Oke. Iya. Oh, udah, nggak usah. Mereka di bawah. Nggak usah, ini mahasiswa yang di bawah. Mahasiswa boleh di bawahnya? Silakan. Ibu, Kak Ibu. Sudah benar. Oh, hati-hati. Sini saya. Look at the camera, please. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hebat. Oke, semua tangannya mengepal ya. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Oke. Video ya semuanya. Bilang apa, Prof? UNER hebat. UNER hebat, Universitas Airlangga excellent with morality jawabnya ya. Oke, kita mulai. UNER hebat. Morality. Thank you everyone. Untuk ibu-ibu CI, mohon perhatian untuk ibu-ibu